Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Dato' Liao Cho, Tan Sri, Dato', ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. So I'm actually presenting on behalf of Tan Sri Yusof Restaurant, CEO of MPOC, who has another commitment elsewhere, who won't be able to be present today. And my presentations today will relate to some of the experiences in developing palm oil in the early days of China, leading to the current situations of exports situations. Just briefly on the economic front of China, after years of breakneck growth, China has come to a new normal in terms of economic growth. And the new normal means Chinese economy has entered a new phase that is different from the high-speed growth pattern exhibited in the past. The growth slowed down from the high rate of around 10% to now about 7%, feature more sustainable growth with mid to high rate growth with higher efficiency and lower cost. The service industry will gradually become a backbone of the national economy, and consumption will be the main source of demand. And the Chinese economy will transform from the unsustainable production investment-driven model into more innovation, consumption-driven model. Briefly on the oils and fats front, although China is one of the major producers of oilseeds, China still needs to import to supplement domestic requirement due to its enormous population of over 1.3 billion, which has grown at 0.3% annually since 1991. Apart from China being a economic powerhouse, China also is a major player in the oils and fats front on the international stage. In fact, China is a net consumer of oils and fats, and in 1996, the per capita consumption was only 11.1 kg per person per year, which has increased to 26 kg per person per year in 2014. And such phenomenal increase can be attributed to China's impressive economic growth in recent years, which saw vast improvement in purchasing power. So briefly on the palm oil consumption front, in fact, palm oil is unknown in China in the initial period of time. In the 1980s, I think, some early players like China Tex, Mr. Hao, has actually imported some palm oil into China. And in 1986, was a meagerly 60,000 metric tons of palm oil was imported into China, which has come to about 6 million tons currently. So among the palm oil products imported, the main products are palm oil. In fact, there's some background to why palm oil was the preferred oil that is being accepted in China, which I'll come in later. Some historic development of palm oil in China, which we had played a part under Porim at the time. On the onset, palm oil is virtually unknown in China because it's not indigenous produced in China. And when China opened up in 1979, the food scarcity prompted China to identify processed foods which can satisfy the basic needs of the population. And instant noodles is one of the key processed foods at the time that was identified by the authorities to actually provide the basic food needs to the population. Initially, during the onset of the instant noodle industries, they were trying to use the local produced oils as much as possible, including animal fats, which was not successful at all because of the rancidity that is present and also the shelf stability after frying, which is not present in some of these oils. So in effect, in 1983, the Xi'an National Oils and Fats Institute in China, which is one of the renowned institutes under the jurisdictions of Ministry of Commerce, requested at the time some technical collaborations on palm oil to actually tackle some of these problems. At that time, the institutions we collaborated with Xi'an, we were PORIM at the time. So that goes the PORIM's role at the time. In 1984, we actually giving some technical services with Xi'an Institute to actually tackle the problems of using palm in instant noodles. And in fact, the instant noodle industries offered a perfect platform or a perfect sort of a stage for us to enter China. And it's true, actually, palm oil, instant noodles, that we are able to actually help palm oil to enter China subsequently in a bigger way. So initially, the PORIM's role was to provide the technical services with the help of the local industries and agencies supported. During the early periods of providing such service to the instant noodle, there were a lot of difficulties involved because the facilities in melting the oils and fats were not present. And at that time, some batches of palm stearin were instead being provided, and hell went loose when during that time it's very, very difficult to actually tackle the problems. But at that time, there was when palm oil were introduced instead. Because palm oil with lower melting point is easier to be melted, and in fact, it's also a perfect sort of medium for frying for instant noodles. So finally, the success story of instant noodles actually pave ways for other product applications. It makes life easier for us to promote palm oil for other applications in China. In fact, this shows some of the bulk blending because of availability of palm oil. So at that time, bulk blending of palm oil with other vegetable oils and fats becomes a common practice. And normally, these are some of the depots that were present, that were built in China, southern part of China, and the special economic zones at the time. Actually, they were in drums, and this has helped a cross-border transport of palm oil into other regions or other provinces of China. In effect, a lot, the inner provinces, a lot of transportations of goods to the port near the southern regions, and normally they will actually get all these sort of drums and instead of going back to the provinces in empty lorries. So this has provided a better sort of transport structures for them. And also the cross-border trade, and of course, at that time also the illegal smuggling activities. In effect, a lot of the smuggling activities were from Hong Kong in fishing boats, which through the special economic zones in China in the south. And apart from instant noodles, which seen some success in terms of this providing the food systems to the populations, the next in line was actually the biscuits industries and the confectionery industries. The biscuits also identified as one of the food products to actually support the foods, the populations, to feed the populations, being the convenience sort of foods and dry foods, which can provide the basic food necessities to the populations. And in effect, in those time, biscuits the production of biscuits were based on liquid oil. Any liquid oil that is available, they use it for their biscuits production. In fact, the biscuits are normally sold in bulk at the time without any sort of packings. So the bulk, they mainly are bulk sort of biscuits in the products. And because of the using of the liquid oil for the production of biscuits, so in effect, the quality and the eating quality, the crispiness of the product is not there. And in some cases, when we visited some of the industries, because palm oil were imported, also smuggled from Hong Kong in fishing boats. In fact, some of the palm oil that were used has fishy flavors. In fact, also, the producers, the processors, in fact, a lot of them has innovative ways of overcoming these problems. Because in Chinese cooking, to get rid of the fishy flavors is to add ginger. So in fact, some of these processors, in fact, they boil the palm oil in ginger to get rid of the fishy flavor. But instead, of course, the oil quality has deteriorated with high acid values. So subsequently, because Kwok has actually established the flour industries in China at the time, and also the solid fat industries and confectionery fat products. So we work hand in hand at the time with Kwok Group to introduce palm solid fats like shortening to the industries. And in fact, we provided a lot of seminars in different areas in conjunction with the food association or local food associations, and with demonstrations from the flour and the solid fats that were available to actually promote the solid fats use in the biscuit industries and the confectionery industries. And in fact, such demonstration at the time were very impressive, which is something new to them. And that is how solid fats were again becomes one of the popular sort of ingredients for biscuit manufacturing. And in just to recap some of the issues during the time that the initial period of promoting palm to the industries. And the basic task at the time is to make people understand palm oil, including the government policymakers, and to differentiate palm varieties in terms of Chinese terminology. So because at the time, most of the populations could not differentiate the different type of palm oil available. In fact, the most, they can also only differentiate either is edible palm oil or industrial palm oil. So in fact, working with Xi'an National Oils Institute, in fact, was a valid one, because it was through these institutions that we introduced the Chinese terminology for palm oil, differentiating whether it's liquid or solid in the Chinese terms. So in fact, that actually subsequently, because drafting of a standard by the Xi'an National Institute has actually ingrained that sort of terminology into the system. And at the time also, the quality and technical challenges in the winter for melting facilities were not there. And of course, the quality problems, because the source of some of these products were from different sources, which is very difficult to trace back where they come from. And also, the Chinese terminology also came in handy for our WTO negotiation on quota and our attempt to get palm stearin out of quota system. In fact, I was drafted in for the final negotiations with the ministry in China for the accessions of quota system into palm oil into the quota system. And because of the Chinese terminology and also the materials that we provided, we managed to get palm stearin out of the quota system at the time. And during that time, the chief negotiator was Dato' Subramaniam, who was a very excellent negotiator, and I was drafted in for this purpose. And of course, in some sectors, protectionism in some of the sectors, because palm oil is not indigenous in China. So there are a lot of old school of thoughts still prevalent, because they are all mainly into the rapeseed, the local rapeseed and soybean oil, for example. So the tendency is for them actually to protect the local industries, and there were actually some negative sort of sentiments against palm oil being saturated and whatnot. So now the current status, because of the Chinese economic progress and development, and there were diversified demands. And these are the current sort of sectorial applications that palm oil are present in this sector. So for the current growth of oils and fats, there's no more phenomenal growth, but consolidating in tandem with the economic and sectorial growth. And MPOC and POSIM offices in China were set up in China and to provide services to the market. And MPOC will continue to promote potential areas of growth, embraces uses of direct consumption of palm oil in the inner regions of China with less exposure. And also the nutritional information to change old school of thoughts in nutritional circles and embrace palm oil as healthy oil. And today, the trading in the renminbi currency could be a new option to facilitate trade in palm oil and a boost to the palm oil trade. With that, thank you very much.